Good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome to my last class. It's a Q&A. I had promised that I would use this opportunity to conclude on the point that I was making in my previous class, that is in regards to the angels. But before that, I would want to respond to one question that I remember somebody asked, and I think this is from the second class. It goes like, can we show that the seventh kingdom, you are the one who asked that question, Robert, in regard to how we can see the seventh kingdom from 1989. Okay, Sunday Law Movement, I think it's somewhat the same thing. So I think I would say we have two models to explain the rise of the seventh kingdom, right? I would say there is progression, and there is a typology. So in the sense that in 1798, we can see a transition So we are in 1798. Then Revelation 13 will speak of a beast that is coming out of the sea. And I think it is referring to, we say, the European kingdoms. But I think it's easier to use the language purposely for an easy understanding. Then USA is another beast that comes out of the earth. So if you read Revelation 12, verse 17, Revelation has been speaking about a dragon as it operates in different times in history. So by the time you come to verse 17, you'll see that this dragon follows the woman that it was persecuting in this history. It follows that woman to the earth. And therefore, from that, we would say that we have the dragon in this history. But this dragon that follows this woman to this history does not get an opportunity to find a church that it would operate with. So this kingdom that comes here, the earth kingdom, from the language of Revelation 12, it swallows the flood. So it provides that conducive environment for the existence of this church throughout this history. But the point is, we can thread that story to show how the seventh kingdom has been alive here, and it's been trying in different attempts. For example, you can speak about 1850, right? You can speak about the 1888 history. You can show that in history, this kingdom has been trying to come to prominence, but there has been a restraint from the sixth kingdom. So that is the progression I'm speaking about. Then, so this is the time of the end. So we have the fifth kingdom, and then we have the sixth kingdom. So typology will tell you that when you come to 1989, you have another time of the end, which is 1989. And then this sixth kingdom is still running in history. But when you come to 1989, you need to see a transition from the sixth to the seventh kingdom. This is now typology I'm explaining. So by the time we were in 1989, we need to see the seventh kingdom, that it is the time of the seventh kingdom. But it is happening, the rise of the seventh kingdom from 1989, its time of reign is happening in such a way that it comes to full prominence, which we usually mark as the image of the beast at the Sunday law. So why the Sunday law is significant in regards to the rise of the seventh kingdom is because of the aspect of the image of the beast. Right? Then we know that from models that we can look at here, the seventh kingdom does not rise to the full prominence until close of probation. It is at the close of probation that now the seventh kingdom will rule supremely. So we have how many obstacles the seventh kingdom has to deal with before it comes to rule supremely. How many? 3 obstacles. Do we see that? So it conquers the first obstacle in 1989, which is the king of the south. It conquers the glorious lands at the Sunday law. Then it conquers the whole world, Egypt, the whole world here, at the close of probation. So by the time you are at the close of probation, the seventh kingdom is ruling supremely. But when did the seventh kingdom start ruling? 1989. So by the time we're in 1989, if you are deliberate enough to see the seventh kingdom at that waymark, you will see it. Because typology will tell you the seventh kingdom is at the time of the end, 1989. I think Grace touched on some good model that we can use to understand the rise of the seventh kingdom. It's the Third Diadochi War, right? The conflict where we have Antigonus. I'm not well conversant with this story. Yeah. Seleucus. So yeah, there's this story. I'm not well conversant with it, but this is one of the models we use to the rise of the seventh kingdom from 1989. I understand we have other models. The rise of Papal Rome, right? We can use it to show that the seventh kingdom as well has that parallel of, conquering 3 obstacles before ruling supremely. We know that in 64 BC, Rome conquers Syria. Then in 63 BC, Pompey marches into Jerusalem and conquers the glorious land. Then later, at the Battle of Actium, 31 BC, we know that Rome will conquer Egypt. So when you come to 1989, you need to see USA starting to embrace that dragon voice. There's many literal stories on how USA behaves from 1798. We've just come out of we've come out of what? Cold War. And then Gorbachev will initiate this phrase, the new world order. So in the mind of Gorbachev is thinking of a new world that is working with globalism, right? that we can have global institutions and have amicable ways of solving conflicts rather than wars. And then later on, I think it's in a speech made in, is it 1991, by George Bush. George Bush will change that phrase to, pass their own thoughts about that phrase, New World Order. And George Bush Sr. would use that phrase, the New World Order, to project USA as the state that that they would. It's better to avoid a lot of diplomacies and have a nation that is in control, that is leading, and by that it can be easier to solve conflicts than engaging in diplomatic relations. So that is United States speaking as a dragon as early as 1989. Then later on, still within the presidency of George Bush, they, against the advice of United Nations, they marched into Iraq and they initiate that conflict that the international institutions advised against. So I think we can really see USA as a dragon from 1989, unless somebody wants to add some points there. Yes, Robert?
To seeking clarity on the same. So you have traced the seventh thing from that period all the way to where we are. Can we be said then to say the seven kingdoms used synonymously with the Sunday Law movement? Is that one and the same thing?
Yes.
And that is the matter. Yeah.
Now, things are complex. First, we need to agree that things are complex, aren't they? You see, if you want to, if you want to solve something, just accept first that it's complex, so that you come with the energy that it deserves. So I think somewhat it's complex how we should use these terms, especially in how we relate to the seventh kingdom. But I think from studies by Elder Terry has tried to differentiate MAGA, which I think I agree, and Trumpism. Elder Terry is trying to show that MAGA is the culture or the religion, and Trumpism is the new Republican Party in short. Because I think from the classes Grace has been doing, they have gone a long way to show that by the time you come to the image of the beast Weimar, you need to see that both the state and church have some change. They undergo some change. The state and church, they undergo some change for this marriage that happens here to be possible. Because since 1798, you've been having a state that is not embracing any church, does not mingle with any church or any culture or any of these ideologies we are looking at now in the Sunday Law history. So I think Elder Terry is therefore using this word Trumpism to explain the new outlook of the Republican Party. You would easily identify as Trumpism or Trump's party. And then he goes ahead to show that MAGA is this ideology, the religion that they have embraced. I don't know if it makes sense. That is why I say things are complex. I too don't understand them fully as at now. But the seventh kingdom, we will say it is all these things. At a simple level, as we continue to understand how to deal with the nuances that are in these studies. What do you think, Robert?
It's okay. Which means that the seven kingdoms not all United States. it's part of the change that you said.
So when we talk about the word kingdom, I think we're increasingly starting to connect kingdom with the state. And by saying the seventh kingdom, oh, it's nowhere here. By saying seventh kingdom, we're increasingly connecting kingdom to a state. But I can use the seventh kingdom to refer to everything that is formed here at the image of the beast, unless you want to be detailed and specific of what you are talking about. So when I use the seventh kingdom, if you want to be detailed, you can say the seventh kingdom is the new outlook of the state entity that now embraces this religion, this ideology, right? So two hands. Let me have just two hands. So we have go ahead. You. Yeah.
Speaking about manga and
William. That's William. That's William. Sorry, William.
Because I mean, is there a point when we have
Okay. When you go to Revelation 13, we have two beasts, right? Don't we? Don't we? So the first beast, which I try to show here, comes out of the sea. And when you look at that beast of the first beast of Revelation 13, the difference about that beast from the one, whichever the entity that is in Revelation 17, is that in 13, John does not show any division or, entities that are comprising of this entity in 13. But in 17, they will try to show that actually it consists of two entities, a church and a state, right? So if we are in Revelation 13, if you go ahead to read, you will see another beast is introduced. That second beast that is introduced is called the lamb-like beast. So we have the sea beast. There's the sea beast, and then there's, yes? Yes, the earth beast. The earth beast or the lamb-like beast. The reason why I want us to take the lamb-like beast, lamb-like, it is because it has what? Two horns. So there is republicanism and Protestantism. I'm increasingly being convinced that the reason why John does it this way, it is because we have another story in Revelation 17. It will tell you that the fifth, you have the fifth, the sixth, and then the seventh will make what? The image of the fifth. Do we agree with this? So I tend to feel the reason why in 13, John decides to illustrate this and not show the entities within it. It is because by the time you are coming to the seventh, I think it's going to be difficult to see a distinction of two entities in the seventh kingdom. I think it's going to be difficult, but at least we know that there's something to do with the state that has to morph into this, into a shape that is going to accept or, have a collaboration or some marriage, as we say, with some religion. But I think I can use this story to show how complex it is to separate what MAGA is and what Trumpism is. Yes, William?
Where did we get MAGA from?
Where did we get MAGA from?
Let me elaborate that. when the part is time, we can go to history and point to the part of Maga. When you speak and you see the part of Shabi.
I think you have answers. You're asking as if you have. Uh-huh. But I've been doing that, while at the same time I'm trying to show that it is complex to separate these two entities. If you want to see the difference, we will see the difference. So I take two hands. I'll take Grace and Titus, kindly. So let's go with Titus first. Yes, Titus? You want to give the opportunity to somebody else?
The first thing that you are trying to do was how we can I think we need to appreciate that because the creation is made in itself, and 1989 is the way it's still psychology. Because if you have a life of the 1989, in that case, this is not a story that you do in the 1988, and 1988 is something that I would say that you cannot have an. So I think that's one of the then related to the thing that I think we can see in 1989 the most in education the progress made in foreign is and we can see them in before 1989, they actively they recognize the importance that cannot be able to what is doing to find a pattern, the public and pattern.
So if I would request you repeat something, you identified three movements here.
Yeah.
And that is like I mean three issues. So we have race, gender, and okay.
And probably but I will probably this these movements that are going that the problem that if we don't have power, we don't have anything, we can't do anything. So they make plans to say in that continuum, you have plans because we have to occupy the street and policy and the policy group of that.
National reform.
The group of lawyers who came together.
Okay.
They start actively doing something like organizing federal society, and more importantly, keeping a party, they are very successful in avoiding around the and we know that is your from the want to keep the party that so as well as we can separate family Naga, I think it's very and also I think in relation to the way depends on people who want to like my life, but for me I think it's fair to say that
I think the other hand was from Grace. Kindly help us to define remind us. I think you missed some content on what MAGA is from the previous classes we've been having with Grace. They have really gone a long way to show us what MAGA is, and they connected it with religion, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there we go. So Grace.
So, when I'm working in the theory to the patient and comparing the relationship between the way sometimes and the way the paper the state and actually really new concept. So, I think it becomes very difficult to hold these two concepts at the same time, but this is a thing that is established in the movement that we are required to hold two concepts at the same time. So, that's what matters. If we find yesterday as religion, and we said that when that is taken from the concept of regulation that seems to have the Catholic Church and the European thing, and here at the end of the world, we have to define what religion is, and that is not the problem, or Christianity is not the problem, because inequality is everywhere. That is why I think why the people come from that it's the problem. And there is inequality everywhere. Therefore, we have to define, or we have to look for a mechanism to understand how this inequality in the global looks like. And that is the issue. And some market is defined market as everything. It includes everything. So maybe we have to really see where we can begin letting the kingdom matter. Trying to understand this terminology in for we understood that the seventh kingdom was right, that is the part of the list of revelation that is there. But 2024 is where we begin to see when the understanding comes up to define those terms, market terms. So I'm asking that you can go to 1989 and see something more, you can see the seventh kingdom, the rise of the seventh kingdom. But the point where we mark when it becomes visible, I think we went back to the history of 2014, the history of 2020, that area video, and we began to see the rise of manosphere from 2015 to 2024. So 2014 we see manosphere, and manosphere is part of MAGA. But July 18th, when it's going to have that July 18th is the Sunday law, this is going to tell that July 18th is the Sunday law, and we have transformation of the Republican. But why do we say that we have the seventh kingdom? We have to go back to understand what the sixth kingdom looks like. So this is how the sixth kingdom looks like, because it is a lamb. Revelation 13 says that this looks like a lamb. And so we have to understand the characteristics of the lamb. It is great, when we go to the context of USA, defining the lamb, the USA, America, raising our lamb, it has this principle of republicanism and Protestantism. And the principle which makes the sixth kingdom, the lamb, is that it has this whatever people life, liberty, and participation, happiness. USA raised as an asylum, it is a people of hope. So when you come to a point where you can go to that, the state of the United States no longer protect or no longer uphold those principles, I think that is the point we can do that. This nation or this entity as this.
Okay, thank you. On the same issue, we want to contribute to the same issue. Seek clarity, not comment. Yes? I'm afraid we might end up discussing this one issue the whole class. So maybe I'll just take two last hands. or I continue?
Hands.
Two hands? Two hands? Sir, Philip and I will. It is at this point I have now to exercise. Yeah.
Yeah. Also fall within that one. So just can continue.
So let's have Philip and Sabine kindly, with due respect. Yes, Philip and Sabine.
I think it feel like it is not a problem. So how's up?
Happy day.
Okay. Now, I think that one is a very good question. One that was asked by Willie. Because my friend here was about hospital. So it is a very significant question. And to me, part of the answer is going to be given by great active labor.
I would request you. Okay, fine. Make it as brief as possible, please.
So, part of the answer is already been given by Grace. But the question is about the parting points or the different, where do they differ? Okay? In the mega and the composite. So if I'm going to let's say composite and mega are both ideals.
Continue. Proceed.
Because composite and mega are both ideology. So, and if you see this ideology, they both rise in Nigeria now. You see this guy called Reagan, Ronald Reagan. Okay, in the first person, we spoke the word called "Make America Great Again" in the okay, and like Titus had said before, there were these the Christian round that were laboring to make sure they put the Republican Party the president into what? Into presidency. They use that to media on end. Okay, so that's what was going on. So to make a difference between communism and mega, yesterday
Grace.
actually when one thing Lambert, I had Phil Lambert was presenting not I don't know a month ago. I had to go to Wikipedia, and then when I saw Wikipedia, I did not see the difference between mega and communism. Because Wikipedia didn't have that. Mega is the same as what? That's what Wikipedia said. So what I have to do, I have to continue seeing another articles on internet. Okay. So when I find out that what Wikipedia says is different from what other articles says, and I had to apply the rule that has been in this movement, the rule of seeking the information. Okay. Because even Ellen White, you can find one thing is just one thing here, but when you go and read, then you are referring to the Ellen White information. Okay, so I have to apply that one. I find out that mega, okay, there is many articles, about 5 of them that I have that actually define mega as the Christian nationalism. Okay, so in that case, when you go back to Trumpism, yes, when you go back to Wikipedia, you see that these people do not actually put the difference because they see, yes, I don't know, they are not used the lens of the prophet. Because we say, yeah, how to put it, activists are the prophet. The people who write in Wikipedia, these are just the information that I guess I don't know where to get them. But the activists are always like the prophet. When you go read from
Opinions.
yes. Yes. There's one article from Bloomberg, okay, that I have here that says mega is a driving force, mega driving force is the Christian nationalism. This one will actually give you the glimpse that this mega is the new religion, the new church, okay, that is riding
what? The Republican Party. In fact, it is called reinvented Republican Party, which is called New Republican Party. This is so reinvented from 2014. It is no longer the same Republican Party. So this is what I have to put. You sometimes don't see the difference, but when you go further, you see the difference.
Michelle,
So,
so you, just to clarify.
Yeah.
So you paid mega is Christian nationalism.
Yes.
What about Trumpism?
Trumpism is a political ideology.
Eight?
It's a political ideology. They are not the same.
So we are back online. I was trying to re-echo what Philip just said. If I got them clear, I think Philip has given us two perspectives, like we were just saying. I don't think they changed. It's just we were initially saying, what did we see from this model? We saw that John tries to show that actually the beast that is going to resurrect, it looks like this sea beast. And this sea beast, they did distinguish the idea, or rather, try to show what makes up this beast. So I think from this analogy, we can see that it is difficult to isolate whatever the entity we see at the Sunday law. So Philip is saying that you can see these two factions, it's difficult to really differentiate them. But then they went ahead and said, MAGA it gravitates more to Christian nationalism. And I think really, I don't know what people think about it. But that is what they say, right? That MAGA, like that MAGA gravitates more to Christian nationalism, unlike Trumpism, right? But really, they didn't define to us what Trumpism is. And so we had Sabina. question. So, yeah, we have Rogers, a comment. Okay, sure. That's a legitimate concern. So from this studies, I think let's give us some factions that make up MAGA. And I think among those factions, there was something that that is in regards to Christian nationalism. We did it. So I wouldn't, if it were me, I wouldn't say that MAGA is Christian nationalists, but I would say part of the MAGA system is Christian nationalists. I think it's better to put it that way because now we understand that the populace, the nature of the populace in the United States, as it reflects the entire world, has really changed. And let's say we cannot separate MAGA and Trumpism. Will it be harmful? Will it change anything?
It does.
So, Rogers? Yes?
I'm happy the way you're put. Those both matter. And in fact, I think the majority of the within MAGA is about
Sure. Okay.
I don't know why people keep saying you can't tell the religion and the culture. I think it's like the only about the people are that.
Okay.
But we just limiting ourselves to one chapter. If there's no service speaking to the state, because that seems to not be done. It's more, you cannot look at that.
The beast of Revelation 13.
And 17 now this is the beginning of the woman, and so 17 of that never be part of that.
Okay.
Because that's something different from that.
Okay.
What we say, what we do that as an argument that we are,
That's another legitimate question. So, Rogers, I think, is giving some follow-up question, inquiry, that I intimated earlier that when you go to Revelation 17, John will try to, okay, like somewhat, he presents these two beasts differently. There's the beast of Revelation 13, 1 to 10, and there's the beast of Revelation 13, 11 to 17, 18. So the beast of Revelation 13, 11. So I tried to show that from this story, he presents the first beast as the beast, unlike in 17, where there's a separation of the entities. And I used that as a basis to say that if this is the beast that it resurrects, from one perspective, you'll see that it is really one thing. But from another perspective, which is in 17, you can see a separation. And I used that to say it becomes difficult at the end of the world to separate. And by the way, can you separate a message and the messenger. We usually say you can't separate if you want to, right? So still there's that difficulties that if you want to separate the message and the messenger, you can separate. But if you don't want, no, not if you don't want. So I'm really saying it's complex, but I think we have answers amongst us, and we will continue to see how it unfolds. 10 minutes. So put on the action.
Okay, according to me, I place MAGA in 1989, Trump is in 2016.
Okay.
So MAGA, we see this group of people who believes there's a time that America was great. And now to achieve this one, they have been fighting to find someone who will help them to make America great again. So they began with Reagan, it did not achieve. So by 2016, they find this person, and it is Trump. So Trump comes with ideology. So I think one is the tool to achieve, Trumpism is the tool to achieve MAGA that will make America great again. So yeah, makes sense.
So 2016, we have Trump. So there is Trump coming into the political stage in 2016. And from then, we will see drastically how Trump changed. So, yeah, I think we can see. In my first class, as we finish, I'll give you the opportunity, William. We tried to show, and then Etabo, you had something to say? I want to be as just as possible. So we will have William. Etabo, you still want to speak? No? So we will have David. Who else would want to speak as we finish? But you'll try to be as brief as possible. So we will have William. We will have K. David. Who else? Then I will answer your question. So we tried to show that the vessel that we have here that will do the messaging is the Republican Party. And Grace has to some extent shown how we have to see a change in these two entities. They have to both more for them to be fit for purpose at this particular point. So we've seen we are now gravitating towards understanding the Republican Party as what we would call the state. And we've demonstrated how from 2016, through a number of studies that have been done, how that Republican Party, you remember we marked some 3 individuals in 2014, right? How they have, in a very castrated strategy, changed the Republican Party. So when we come at this point, we have a vessel that is well oiled, that machinery, the Republican Party, and it's ready to do the messaging. And the message is what we are trying to define as MAGA. I think MAGA becomes an umbrella term that is describing the threefold union that is within this entity, right? The dragon, the Catholicism, the apostate Protestantism is all in there. And this Republican Party is, well furnished to carry forward that messaging of what this religion entails. And we all understand what it entails. Sexism, it's misogyny, it's, the culture, it's what we call manosphere. So I think MAGA is really a term we've decided to embrace to define all these ideologies that we are speaking about. But I think with time, it's becoming well defined what really we are talking about. So we have William. William, quickly make it as brief as possible.
We are looking that we can see MAGA in the reason why we need to put in 1990 is because of Reagan. Mother.
Mhm.
Now, mother means make America great again.
Yes.
So if you are making it again, there must be a time when they consider America was great, right? But Trump at least I understand if coming in 2016 and he's saying now that make America great again, it's because they consider America was great, it was between 1989 and 1999 when they are taking rising. Now, if we check if we say, well, we can really say make America great and then all make America great. Because if Reagan, we are using to say make America great again, then when Reagan consider America great, right? So putting that conclusion in, when we think about the ideology that we have in the matter, one experience, all the candidates, if we come to China, like if we are thinking about money, there's a chance to give it back. If we come to race, if we chance our white supremacy, you know, if we come to LGBT, we see again that. So what essentially are we saying about money?
Okay. I think I would prefer we take those questions as rhetorical questions. No. I mean, what I mean is this. What I mean is, I would advise we take them as rhetorical questions so that we can be thinking about them, because I don't think we'll be able to answer them now. Yes. 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 I know it means you don't answer them, like they don't have an answer, but you can think about them. We have Rogers, then Ake David, then we had Nick. Then instead of you, because of time, I take yes. So let's go yes, I agree with that. Sure, I agree. Okay.
And we are ready to formalization. So what we're trying to do is we know that we don't see that we go along. So I think the questions that we have need to be open to the fact that maybe there are some people who they just take what we do or something matter. But we should like because that is them should not applying the question, you know, understanding.
I agree. That was a good advice. So we have Ake David.
Really a lot of questions in your brain. And that can exist depending on the front. Focus on the story but simply not getting. Front is a personal brand, style, and political story. Sometimes the line is, but can also divert with the total marketing. Significantly, Panama can be seen as a set of ideals, while Trump is about the management personal brand of politics. That is just the summary in a nutshell what matter and where Manga and the text and where they can divide. So I think they were trying to get it. Yeah.
Can you repeat what you read about MAGA kindly?
Manga is an opening, basically movement that can exist independent of Trump. Focus on restoring the particular greatness.
Okay.
Then Trump is a personal brand, style, and political approach to Donald Trump, which sometimes aligns with, but can also divert from the broader MAGA movement. And then say that it can also overlap significantly. So, but MAGA can be seen and decided by him while something about the personal brand.
Thank you. I think you heard what they read.
Like, we are going to be that is the standard.
Some, yeah,
Yes.
yes. We are giving opinion on this. And then as we continue thinking about it. So I think I had, no, not Dennis. I had, Sabina. Then maybe you can have Dennis as finish, because they haven't. You had your hand up. Oh. Okay, let's maybe we'll answer the person. Thanks. So Sabina. Yes.
And you can see how most of the ability for the country and the county in the people, whether it's from me, trying to run around and big.
Okay. On July 18, that field occupied by people, what are those people? Are they MAGA or Trumpism? Both. So when we tried to define that there's the threefold union within this entity, I think we were just looking, we didn't specifically define whether it's MAGA or Trumpism. It was this.
For me, I see that some of the stories that we are saying the ability that
So we had Murioki, then we close.
Happy Sabbath.
Happy day.
Happy day.
Happy Sabbath.
Okay, so my thoughts. So I remember it's a commentary I gave last time. It's a commentary I gave last time. I think we had a close connected question. And I gave reference to study for Elder. I think I would say for now that it is Elder who has tried to come up with these models of Trumpism, MAGA. And I think in that study, I think is what we have a controversy. So there is what we know. Some are going to Wikipedia, articles, all that. But when you look what she begins by defining names on that study. So, and when she begins to define, it means that she's going to take the term Trumpism under the context of her study. She's going to take the word MAGA under the context of her study. I think this is not a new thing where, I don't know whether to call her an angel or a prophet, but a prophet would take a word and redefine the word based on a study to do something, right? So, so when she takes the word Trumpism, and basically someone has said it, when you go to the Wikipedia, you see that there is no difference. Actually, they are saying Trumpism is MAGA. But in her study, she wants you to see a difference. And she wants you to see the difference that MAGA is a movement. He called it the Sunday Law movement. And he's able to show that MAGA, this movement, is the driving force of this movement, all the movements, the sub-movements, I would say, that are behind it, have an ideology. And this ideology is a certain worldview, which she will call culture. So she's going to define another term, Babylon, and show that when you look at Babylon system, you will try to define and show that it is a combination of two entities. One, we call a church entity and a state entity. but yet she will try to define and show that the MAGA is this movement that has an ideology. And she will, because the definition of a study, you know, the ideology of MAGA, it's this movement that has a threefold union. Three overlapping ideologies that in a way eventually agree. So, and then she tries to show that this ideology, it's like a spirit that wants to be implemented in America, but it lacks a vehicle. Are we together? And so, to implement this ideology, what it needs is a political entity which she associates with a state. And then she says, in today's era, or what is happening in America, to implement your ideology, what you actually need is a political party. And because before she has taught us about the Steve Bannon's view, and now Steve Miller's view, the old Republican Party that Steve Bannon begins to shape, which eventually is upgraded by Steve Miller, she's now going to show us that this Trumpism, as much as we want to see it so synonymous with MAGA, but she wants in that study to show that Trumpism is actually this Republican Party. It is this vehicle that this ideology will thrive in. So she associates Trumpism with the Republican Party, and the Republican Party as a political entity fails on the work. Instead of stopping this bad ideology, it actually elevates the ideology. And that's how it becomes like a beast that this culture rides on. So I think we will always have this confusion when we have our own thoughts, what MAGA and Trumpism is. I'm not saying is wrong. And the conflict that we have is that based on what we know, we can't be able to separate the two. But based on our study, I would ask us to go first and watch and see how we are able to separate the two entities. And maybe we can come and ask a question. How does Trumpism become the Republican Party? I would be more welcome to see such questions now after we have actually watched the presentation, because this is started at the
Good to finish. Yes, I think we can finish there. Let's pray. We are praying. Dear Lord, thank you for this time. Thank you for this opportunity we've had to share our thoughts. And as we continue to learn and relearn, be with us. Help us to be willing to change our thoughts and how we perceive things so that we can well coincide or agree with the message that is being given us this Sunday law experience. Be with us as we walk into the Sabbath. We pray for your blessings this Sabbath day. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.